it was a hard time for our department, a very hard time, because a lot of people painted us all with the same brush, right? Nobody sees who you are. All they see is the uniform. And that happens every time something happens in law enforcement. They don't see you as a person, they see the uniform.
Brothers and sisters! Brothers and sisters! I don't know what this world is coming to!
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. What's good, Black and Blue fan? Welcome to the latest edition of the Black and Blue Podcast, where we celebrate diversity in U.S. law enforcement. You all know me. My name is Dale, and I'm the host. Thank you, one and all, for joining me on this episode because, you know, I got a real hot one for you today. But before we do that, let me ask you, please, click those like, subscribe, and bell icons right down here on my YouTube channel. And if you listen to me on your favorite podcast platform, please make sure you rate the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. And finally, make sure you check me out on any one of my social media pages for even more content. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. All right, so now that we got that out the way, let's get into this. My guest today worked as a commander for a unique law enforcement agency up in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she's here to tell us all about her unique experience with that agency. So Black and Blue fam, let's welcome to the show retired Bay Area Rapid Transit Police Commander, Anisa McNack.
Thank you, Dale.
How you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for joining us on the show here today.
Thank you for having me. I am a big fan of Black and Blue Podcast. So
oh, really?
Thank you for having me. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mentioned there in the intro that you were retired. How long you been retired now?
Since July 20th. So not long. Just recently. Long enough, though. Yes.
Congratulations. You made it to the finish line.
How
long did you do there?
24 years. I did 24 years. Started as a non-sworn and retired as a lieutenant. So.
All right. Wait a minute. I got you here, commander. What was that a commander or were you acting commander? What's going on there?
So for our department, lieutenant and commander are one and the same. Okay. I was a watch commander when I retired, but it's still at the lieutenant level.
All right. And so that's up in the Bay Area. Are you still up there now?
Yes, I live in a small suburb called Brentwood. It's just about 30 minutes from Oakland, so this is where I will continue to reside.
All right. So are you originally from up there?
I am. I'm originally from Oakland.
Okay. All right. From Oakland. Oakland's been hit hard recently. I mean, they just lost the Raiders. They're about to lose the A's. Yeah, it's been tough up there, right?
Don't forget about the Warriors.
Oh, yeah. And the Warriors. That's right. They were there. Now they're in San Francisco proper. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, yeah. They are. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. And, I'm down here in the LA area, but I'm a Niner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and you're about to say
a Warriors fan.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm a Laker. I don't follow baseball that much, but I stick with the Dodgers when, and I watch them during the postseason. They've been on a historic run this year. But that's neither here nor there. We're not here to talk about sports. We could do that on another podcast. We're here to talk about you and your career with BART, as it's called, the Bay Area Rapid Transit Police Department. Let's talk about that for real quick. Tell us all about what BART is and what they do.
Right. So BART is, like you said, the Bay Area Rapid Transit Police Department is a transit agency up in the San Francisco Bay Area. It runs through about 131 miles, 50 stations, five different counties. So our jurisdiction is pretty big. We're a little over 200 sworn. I believe we have a little over 400 employees of the police department. Um, when I left, we were down about 28 people. So just like everybody else, we are trying to hire individuals that are right for the job. And I keep saying we, but I'm not there anymore.
You've been there long enough to you can still say we. You can
Yes.
still say we. What makes it different than say a municipal police department?
Well, uh, transit, our jurisdiction is mainly on the BART district's property. However, we do have police powers throughout California, but our main jurisdiction is on the property of the transit stations, the parking lots, the areas around those stations. Um, and, with municipalities, they deal with a lot. We deal with the same issues they deal with, whether it's robberies, criminal acts, homelessness. Um, so we deal with the same issues. It's just a special type of policing.
Yeah, it is. I was interested to learn a few years back that for those of you guys that don't know about California law, how it works, the law, the penal code that gives us the authorities here in California, 830.1, is usually broken up into, police and sheriff's departments. We got DOJ that's at 830.1, and then usually everyone else rolls into 830.2 that has some other jurisdictions, other powers, and then 830.3 and so on and so forth. And most transit police departments roll into those other ones. But BART is different. It's in 830.1 along with the, regular police and sheriffs, right?
Correct, correct. And because we go through a lot of different counties, we work with a lot of different agencies. But not only that, to and from stations, if we see something, we are to act, right? So again, we have, jurisdiction all through California.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what drew you to them?
So I worked at the post office when I graduated from high school, and I had a friend who quit the post office to go work for the Oakland Police Department. And he would always come in and he would always brag about how he loved the department. And one thing I always remember him saying is that every day is different. There's no 2 days the same. And at the post office, every day was the same. I memorized a bunch of zip codes and I did a job, and it was a great job at the time. And so at one point in my life, I decided that I wanted to do something different. I wanted to buy a house too. So that also guided me on where I went. And so when I got ready to apply, there was three things that I had in mind. Law enforcement won out. But when I got ready to apply, I called my friend and said, "Hey, I'm going to apply." He told me that BART Police had a position called Community Service Assistant at that time. That's what it was called,
Mm-hmm.
CSA. And that I could apply for that position. I would be working directly under the police department. And if I liked it, then I could apply to become an officer. And so that's how I got over to BART PD. I had no idea they even had a police department. And so I applied for the civilian position. I did that 2 days and I was like, I want to be a police officer. And I applied, and 8 months later, I was going to the academy. So,
Okay, all right, congratulations there. And then what sort of things have you done in your career over there?
I've done a host of things. So early on, when I first got there, I was advised that as soon as you're able to start putting in for special assignments, start putting in for them, because I would latch on to people and just, I want to be an FTO, I want to be a sergeant, I want to be a detective. Well, in order to do these things, you want to have some experience and you want to be able to teach other people things. So you do that by getting into these special assignments and getting the extra training. And so that's what I did throughout my career. So I've been a detective, I was a crime scene technician, I was in the Office of Internal Affairs, I was part of the mobile field force for Contra Costa County and also for our department. I have been an instructor. I have been able to do a host of different assignments that have helped me to be more well rounded for the positions that I put in for later on in my career.
Absolutely. And then, so you just got done talking about the mobile field force and kind of talk about that, and we'll relate that to 2020 and things like
Mhm.
that. So, what is the
Right.
mobile field force for those of us that don't know?
So the Contra Costa Mobile Field Force was a countywide mobile field force where they took people from different departments, and they put them together to create this team so that when protests occurred, they could call this team out, and this team would go and be there to make sure that everybody's rights were okay and that nobody was being harmed or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so it was something that was well needed, especially after 2009 when Oscar Grant was killed at the Fruitvale BART station. Since that was our first experience with an officer involved shooting, I believe. Yes. So, yeah, that was my first experience, rather, right, where all the protests occurred. We had helped other cities before, but it had never been us. So, making sure that we were able to train our officers going forward, getting on the mobile field force gave myself and other people who got on that team training and knowledge to go back to our departments and provide that training to our members.
Yeah, you mentioned that incident. That's the one that the Fruitvale Station movie that made Michael B. Jordan and the director Ryan Coogler put them on the map. So I'm sure that that kind of brought up some memories and some feelings about what you experienced from that time.
Yes. So during that incident, I was actually in detectives. It was not my case though, but I was in detectives, and it was a hard time for our department, a very hard time, because a lot of people painted us all with the same brush, right?
Yes.
Nobody sees who you are. All they see is the uniform, and that happens every time something happens in law enforcement. They don't see you as a person; they see the uniform, and that can just make the job hard. It can make it stressful. Um, and so, but I understand, right? I understand. I'm from Oakland. I have sisters and brothers and family in Oakland. And if that was me in that position, I would feel the same way. And we would be marching, and we probably wouldn't see the uniform. We probably would see the uniform and not the person, just like happened when we were involved in that incident.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how does being a part of law enforcement affect you? Being a not only a female but a black female.
Well, it definitely has affected me over the years. But some of the things I just have to learn not to take personal. And throughout my career, I've always tried to remember the why. Why did I get into it, right? I got into
Yeah.
it to help people like most people,
Yep.
right? What do I do when I come to work? I do the right thing because I'm not there to harm anyone. I'm not there to do anyone any harm, but I am there to protect people, to fight for people's rights, to fight for people who can't fight for themselves, to be a voice for those who can't be their own voice, or they don't have a voice or don't feel like they have a voice, right? And so over the years, just remembering who I am, my why, and making sure that I surround myself with people who think like me, right?
Yeah.
I was in church one Sunday, and my pastor uh, told us, make sure you surround yourself with three types of people: a person who knows less than you so you can pour into them, a person who knows what you know so that you guys can bounce things off each other, and a person who knows more than you so that they can pour into you. And that's who I try to surround myself with: people like that, that I can mentor, that can mentor me, and that if I'm having a hard time at work, I can call that person and speak to that person and be able to um, purge my feelings or whatever it is that I'm feeling at the time.
Yeah. Yep. I can guess that a lot of those experiences that you were talking about right now were external. How about internally? Did you have any of those same experiences that you had to deal with on the internal side?
Yes, I would say my law enforcement experience, sometimes the four walls on the inside are harder than the walls on the outside, right?
Yeah, that part.
Um,
That part.
you know, Dealing with people, I think that I'm good at that, doing my job. You know, I don't take things personal when I'm dealing with people on the outside. Um, but dealing with people on the inside, people that you work with every day, um, it can be challenging sometimes, a lot of times. Um, After the Oscar Grant incident, we got new leadership. Chief Kenton Rainey came to our department, kind of changed things, um, gave us new core values, and changed the promotional process. So it included reading books, it included doing a presentation, it included all these different things. And let me just say that um, prior to what I'm about to tell you, you could not tell me that um, law enforcement was not fair. I'm going to use those words, not fair to everybody, right?
Right.
I would be the one saying, oh no, everything I put in for, I get, right? So I think I took that as being everything was fair. But later on, what I realized is that the things that I was putting in for, other people didn't really want. And so when the
Mm,
sergeant's test came around, I put in for a sergeant's test. I scored number one. And when I scored number one, there was all talk about I didn't deserve it. I was only getting it because we had new core values that included diversity, right?
mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't say me, but I knew they were talking about me. I was number one on the list.
Right.
And so that kind of changed my thought process regarding law enforcement. And it made me feel like as long as we're here, we're good. But if I'm here and you're here, then we're not the same.
Yeah.
So, and everybody's experience is different. That was just my experience.
Right. And how'd you work through all that?
Well, um, I didn't work through that until later on in my career. I was promoted to sergeant, I believe, in 2012. And at the time, I consider myself an introvert, right? So I don't really um, like to have conflict, right? But later on, as I started growing in my role, then I understand that you need to speak up, right? When something is not right, when something doesn't sit right in your soul, you need to speak up. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that, those are things that I learned as I um, continued to climb the ladder. And again, surrounding myself with people in positions that understand or understood where I was coming from, and having them as a listening ear helped me out a lot throughout my career.
Love it. Love it. You were talking about people that can mentor you and that you can mentor. How'd you prepare yourself for that ladder, that career progression? Were there a lot of people that kind of poured into you to kind of help you? Maybe you should do this in education. Maybe take this training. Is that sort of the things that you had to happen with you?
So early on in my career, when I first started, I believe in investing in yourself. You can't wait on the department to send you to a class. You
Oh
can't
yeah.
wait on the department to invest in you. And so for me, just starting off, when I first became an officer, I enrolled in self-defense, right? I was doing mixed martial arts because I am a female. And when you go to the academy, they tell you, men are going to try you more then they would try them in. And I didn't want, I need to go home at the end of the day, right? So
Yep.
I started doing mixed martial arts, and I would invite my coworkers, and they would always say, if the department wanted us to do it, then they would pay for it. But for me, that's not an option, right? So
Yeah.
whenever I wanted to learn something, when I wanted to go to a conference, I would pay myself. Of course, I would ask, and my department has been very good at sending all of us to training. But after the pandemic, it's not in the budget, and so I'll ask, and then if they say no, I'll just pay myself. I don't mind doing that because I'm investing in me, right? I might want to do something after I retire.
Yeah.
I may be, I may want to do something. And so anything that interests me, I pay for it. I don't mind. I mean, what am I losing? I'm not losing anything.
Right.
Yeah. So,
And then that helped you in the long run because you had these experiences, this training, this knowledge,
mhm.
to help you in certain positions, right?
Yes. And what really helped me is Noble, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. When I was preparing for my sergeant's exam, I went to a women's seminar that they had in Oakland, and there was a chiefs panel. There was 4 female chiefs on there, and they all talked about mentoring and asking if you need help. And they all said, hey, if you contact us, we will help you. And when I heard that, I was like, I'm an officer. They're not going to help me. They're not going to call me back. But you know something? I'm going to get all their number. And I got all their numbers. And I called all of them. I left them all a message. And after like 2 days, they didn't call me back. And I was like, I knew they wasn't going to call me back. But I will tell you that all 4 of the chiefs on that panel called me back. It wasn't when I thought that they should have or when I was expecting for them to, but they all called me back. And one of them in particular, she didn't know me from Adam. He came to my house on a Saturday and spent the whole day with me and one of my friends and helped us prepare for a sergeant's exam.
Wow.
So, I mean, that to me, that's incredible. And I remember that so vividly today. And I believe she's been on your show, Chief Assistant Chief Johnny Reddick.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yes,
She's awesome. She's awesome.
yes, she is. So,
Yeah. That's awesome. And then of course, having that experience yourself, you would pour into others that ask of you as well.
yes. Of course, I do promotionals right now. I have a group of friends where if somebody is going for a test, we will make a way to meet together, whether it's Zoom or in person, get that person on the right track. We just helped our friend who works at Richmond PD. She just got promoted to a sergeant. I will literally help anybody because for me, mentoring is a two-way street. So the way I look at it is I'm pouring into you, but you're also pouring into me. I should also be learning from you. And I think like sometimes when people think about mentoring, what they think about is that, oh, I'm helping you, I'm teaching you. No, I'm learning from you too. I don't know everything. And especially like with the younger folks, you learn a lot from them just talking to them, um, going out to have lunch with them, going on trips with them. You can learn a lot from others. So it's not just about giving your 2 cents and trying to teach them. You should also be learning from them.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. On talking about younger generations, and earlier you were talking about you need to get home. What's the family life for you?
So I am married, been married for 12 years, and I am the bonus mom to a wonderful daughter. Her name is Allison. She lives in New York, graduated from San Jose State, took a couple of years off, and then decided to go to Howard. Got her master's and graduated last year.
HU. My daughter's
Yes,
there now.
yes. Okay, yeah. The
Yes.
networking part of Howard, you cannot beat. You cannot beat it. So
Mm-hmm.
she has a great job and she doesn't plan on coming back to California. So,
Okay.
yes,
I feel you. Well, what about you? You plan on staying? You in here for the long haul?
yes, I am here for the long haul. Trying to figure out this retirement thing. because
Yeah.
I feel more busier now than I did when I was working. So
Really? Really?
yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes,
One thing you said when when you were working at the post office, you wanted to buy a house, and there's a housing crisis all throughout California, but I would imagine up in the Bay Area, because those houses up there are crazy expensive, right?
yes.
Yeah, yeah. And you did mention dealing with homelessness as a BART officer. Talk about that experience and what BART does as far as dealing with the homeless.
Right. So when I first got to BART, you might see one or two people laying in the hallways at BART, right?
Yeah.
But now it has tripled, quadrupled. You know,
Hmm.
people are in need, and for BART, they have a progressive policing team where there's non-sworn individuals, um, a crisis response unit where non-sworn individuals will go out and make contact with these individuals and provide them with resources, trying to help them, right? We don't want to jail individuals who are just trying to gain shelter. That's not what policing is about. You know, we are there to help people. We are in these different communities and we should be trying to help them. And so this team has been very successful at providing the resources and helping. They have helped a couple of people get off the street, that's the goal. If you just help one person, that's one person off the street. So
Yep. Right. Exactly. Exactly. And were you a part of any of that as well? That team?
no, I am not a part of
Okay.
that team.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. What's life look like for you now, being retired?
It's a whole bunch of running because I am currently the Region 6 Vice President for the um, Northern California for Noble.
Okay.
So there's 8 chapters within the region, and I am responsible for those 8 chapters, making sure they're compliant, helping with recruitment, speaking up for the chapter members to national, if there's a need or a concern or, anything like that. So that is a lot because you're dealing with 8 different chapters. And
Yeah.
so I've been pretty busy lately. Um, yeah, so besides that, just hanging out with my husband and uh, yeah, doing noble stuff.
All right. All right. So no rest for the weary, for sure, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were working at BART, talk about the most rewarding part of your job over there when you were working there.
Wow. The most rewarding part for me is always helping people. I'm
Mm.
so blessed. And so it's really important for me to help others. So I'll tell you about one young lady. So there was a officer who met this young lady, and I was probably 9 years in. And he came to me and he said, "Hey, I have this young lady. Her name is Aaliyah. She's on the streets, but she needs to get a California ID. So I want to know if you can talk to her and help her out." And I was like, "Sure, I can help her." And so I met this young lady, a sweet young lady. And she grew up in foster home, and she turned 18 and they kind of like just threw her to the side. So she was out on the street. So I helped her get her license, and she just gravitated towards me. She would come back to BART all the time. And every time she came to BART, she would say, "Is my auntie here?" Or she would call me her auntie or her godmom. And everybody would say, "Hey, I saw your niece today and she gave me her number to give to you." And so we stayed in contact like that for years. At one point she found her biological family. And so I don't
Okay.
know what happened to her, but I always think about her because, I just felt so bad for her because whatever she was going through didn't appear to be her fault, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, those are things that we hear about and dealing with people, right? Because
Right.
everybody's
Yeah.
imperfect. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on the flip side of that, talk about a challenging part of your job over there.
Yeah, challenging is the interior of the four walls. That's for me. For me, that was challenging for me, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, everybody has their own lived experiences, and sometimes they just don't connect. People don't understand where you're coming from. And I'm a very passionate person. And so just speaking sometimes, I have to take a minute or maybe a day or two, right? If it's not important, to think about what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it so that it won't be misconstrued or taken out of context, right? Um, and so just things like that, to me, it just made life a little bit more stressful, right? So I got to think about what I'm going to say. I got to make sure it comes out the way that people will hear it.
Right.
And, it just, yeah. But besides that, I've had a great career. I've worked with some great people. I've met some great people. So, I would not do anything differently.
Yeah. All right. All right. You talked about you were you were an officer at one point, patrol, and you were also in detectives. Talk about a case that was really really rewarding for you. A great accomplishment, something that you've been involved in. Didn't have to be your case as the case agent.
Mhm.
Anything as an officer that you saw, anything that you dealt with that people can see and hear on the show, and they can say, "Wow, I want to be a part of that at BART."
Wow. Well, I was the lead detective or the lead investigator for sexual assaults.
Mm.
Um, and so me and my partner, we will always do all the sexual assaults. And there had been a couple of times where people were accused of sexually assaulting someone and they denied it. But, when someone says you did something and we have you there, then normally you get arrested, right? And
Yeah.
as we investigate, right?
Yeah.
And arrested this guy. Come to find out, he did not sexually assault this person. And this person, a female, this person continually said that they were sexually assaulted, but video evidence showed that what she said happened did not happen. And later on, she confessed to not telling the truth. Um, but we think that she really thought she was telling the truth. So if it wasn't for the work that we did, the follow up, then this young man may have um, had his life ruined, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes you got to listen to people and, think outside the box with the investigation and, just do different things. So,
Yep. Yep. As is they say, leave no stone unturned. You got to
yes, sir.
check under every rock and make sure you got all the facts before you make that judgment and that arrest, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. And then again, on the flip side, talk about a case that was really challenging. That when you want to tell that, when people ask you to tell the story, it's something that pulls at your heartstrings, maybe something that's because in this profession
Mhm.
we see the bad part of life's people's lives every day, right?
Yes. So the worst, I'll just say two. The worst two cases I've ever had, they were both baby deaths.
Oh no.
Um, One was with a family who had tried for years to have a baby, and something occurred where their baby died, right? Another one was a mother who was carrying her baby and happened to look into her carrier and discover that the baby was not breathing. So those are really hard cases, especially with the parents. Um, I mean, it tugged at my heart. And, law enforcement, it can be difficult and very mentally, physically, psychologically challenging, especially when you deal with death, right? I
Yes.
don't have any biological kids, and at the time I wasn't married, but I love kids. And so I remember just thinking about it, thinking about it, and thinking about it. And I actually have to go talk to one of my coworkers about it. He was very seasoned, been in law enforcement for like 30 years. I actually had to go talk to him about it because it was bothering me so much. And I kept thinking about it. Because, you know, when you go to these scenes, you actually see what you don't want to see. And once you see it, you
Yes.
can't unsee it.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, so I think that was the worst in my career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does wellness play in your career and with the agency?
So wellness in my career and with the agency now is a little bit different, right? So for me, I grew up in an era where, you know, the things you saw were the things you saw was part of your job, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And then once I became a sergeant, we got a unit called the Trauma Response Team, and I was on that team. And um, so from that time forward, now they have a peer support team, so it's a little bit different. But from that time forward, you know, what we try to do is to make sure that we're not trying to fix anybody, but we're just trying to make sure that a person who came to work one way leaves that way, right? But it's really hard for officers to talk about those difficult situations, right? Because they may be seen as not being as macho as they should be, right? And so, you know, we put people on those teams that, so on the peer support team right now, the people who are on there were voted in by the officers. So they're people who
Okay.
are trusted by the officers and feel comfortable with talking to them. And right now, anything that happens, whether there's a death on the trackway, whether someone gets shot, the watch commander will send a message to the peer support team just to let them know, hey, this is what happened. These are the individuals who were at the scene today. That way they can follow up, right? If they don't do anything but call them and say, hey, I know that you went to that scene, you know, you want to talk about anything? How are you feeling? You know? And so right now the department is, I think they're doing an excellent job on making sure that people have the avenue that's necessary to talk about things that before, you know, you wouldn't necessarily talk about. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And that's been one of the big changes in law enforcement since, you know, you and I started. That, like you say, you know, back then you didn't really
yeah,
talk about the things that you saw and that you dealt with on the job, and nowadays, you know, we're kind of getting away from that.
yes, yes, you have to nowadays.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Things are different. Things are different,
yes,
and we got to change with the times. And
yes.
looks like you did before you got out. And you still have any involvement with the department at all? Or
No, I don't have any involvement except those individuals who I consider my friends. So, you
mm-hmm.
know, I normally, you know, I got free time now. So I'm having lunch with
Yeah.
people and, you know, we're seeing each other outside of the police department. So, yeah. And,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
if they have anything, I will be the first to be there. So, on that invite list. So, yes.
Yeah. All right. All right. So, what about some words of advice for anyone aspiring to get into this career?
I say go for it. BART has afforded me a great career. It has afforded me to do things that I wouldn't normally be able to do. And, you know, every department is searching for good people, you know, and so with that said, let me just say that if you've done something in your past when you were younger that you're ashamed of, it's okay because I was that person who had gotten into trouble in the 12th grade and when I applied, it was 10 years later. So if you've gotten in trouble, it's okay. They're not looking for perfect people, right? Because we're all imperfect, like I said earlier. But what you need to be able to do is explain how the time in between has um, assisted you in your journey, right? So please don't let that stop you because there are people out here who have been in trouble and who will be man, great at working with people, great at being
Yeah.
out in the communities, and that's what we need.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said, we're not looking for perfect people, but because nobody's
Yeah.
perfect. But we're also not looking for people that continue to get in trouble and don't learn from their mistakes.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
That part for
Yes.
real. That part.
Yes.
And how about someone that's already in this profession and that wants to move up the ladder? How about some advice for them?
Yeah, I would just say you can't make change unless you're at the table. So
Mm,
you need to continue to move up the ladder, especially if there's things that you see that could be better. You could be the person to make those things better. Why not you, right? So,
why
and
not?
it's really hard getting like the younger people to want to promote, right? Because they're busy, and I get it, right? I was there before too. But I always try to tell them, you got complaints, you got to do something, right? You can't just complain about something. Get in those positions where you can actually make changes, give recommendations. Those are the positions you want to be in. And the earlier you get in those positions, hey, you might be chief next. So, yeah. And again,
Uh,
invest in yourself. That's what it's about.
invest in yourself. All right.
Yes.
And a good place to do that is with BART, right?
Yes, with BART, with Noble, with Nolly. There's so many great agencies out here
Yeah.
to be employed with, but there's also a lot of great organizations and agencies out here that will help you to promote, right? So, and you don't have to stick with just law enforcement, right? There's professional organizations outside of law enforcement. There's oversight. I know that a lot of people don't care for oversight, but there's oversight like NACOL, right? They have a lot of great information that will aid you in moving forward, right, within your department, and also give you some information that will help you when you get into these leadership roles. So,
Yes. Absolutely. And before we close out, give some more plugs to BART. You talked about the things that you did in your career, but what other assignments do they have over there at BART?
BART is a full-fledged police department. It has K9, it has SWAT. They're actually on. We did away with our SWAT team, but they have a county-wide SWAT team that we have members of. Every unit that other police departments have, BART has. They are hiring. BART.gov. Just go there, fill out an application, and see where it takes you.
Has there ever been any talk of being swallowed up by another agency?
No, I've been there for a long time. There's always been, people who said that, somebody can take you guys over, but nobody has ever talked about it. We've never been in a situation, except, let me take that back. After Oscar Grant, there was talk about doing away with our department. So, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, because down here in LA, they had their own police department. MTA, Metro Transit Authority, had their own PD, and then they got swallowed up by LAPD. And then now with all this stuff going on, now that they're expanding the rapid transit down here with the subways and the platforms and all that sort of stuff, now they're talking about bringing them back.
Right. I heard about that. And so
Yeah.
I remember going down to LA and going into the stations, and there were signs. If there's an issue or problem, call this number. And I was like, what the heck? Are you serious? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah.
I'm not used to that, but yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting they're thinking about bringing it back, and you guys stayed the course up there, and sounds like a good age to say, hey, Commander, hey, I appreciate you coming on and talking about you and your career, and keep it moving. You got a long way to go.
Yes. Thank you, Dale. I really appreciate you having me on here today.
You got it. You take care and be safe up there.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, and let's go Niners, and then go Lakers.
Warriors. Warriors going to take it.
Nah, not now that they lost Clay.
I know, man.
Yeah,
My goodness.
Clay's in Dallas now, and
Yeah.
I love Steph, but I think they should have chosen Clay over Draymond. But
Wait, you think we should have gave up Draymond instead of
yes,
Clay?
and
Is
kept
that what you're
Clay.
saying? Okay, yeah, because I mean, like, if we don't need you, then we don't need you. If you're gonna foul out all the time,
Right.
So,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see this coming season. Hey, I
right.
appreciate. I might try to get up there and go check out a game this year and
I got
maybe
season
see.
tickets.
Look. Yeah. Oh, you do.
Yes, I do.
Excuse me. One of the
Let
perks
me
of being.
know.
I
Hmm.
will. I will definitely.
All right.
Hey,
Okay.
I appreciate you. We'll definitely keep in touch.
Okay, sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care. You got it. And that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Another amazing Black and Blue podcast episode is in the books. I want to thank retired Bay Area Rapid Transit Police Commander Anisa McNack for spending some time with me on this episode. I appreciate you, Commander McNack, and wish you continued success in your retirement. If you guys enjoyed this episode, go on ahead and give it a like and leave a comment in the section below. I'll be back real soon with another outstanding interview just like this one, but till then, say it with me, y'all. Stay black in blue. I'll holler at you. Peace.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.